Colfax, Wisconsin. Okay.
Population 919 then.
Okay.
It's probably less now.
Yeah. If it's there, yes, yes.
Yeah,
sure, yes.
there was nothing there except a feed mill where they ground feed.
Yeah.
So the rest were just grocery stores and meat markets and.
Sounds like a nice little town to grow up in.
Oh,
Yeah.
and of course they sold farm machinery.
Yeah.
Because it was a farming community. Yeah.
Necessary.
2 garages.
Yeah.
Chevy and Ford.
Okay.
That's all you could buy in Colfax.
Yeah. Okay. Brothers and sisters, family?
Pardon?
Your family, brothers and sisters?
I had 1 sister and 2 brothers. My brothers were younger. My sister was 15 months older. But when a friend in the family came and asked my dad if any of his kids wanted to fly, Dana and I both said we would. My sister didn't even want to learn how to drive a car, so she wasn't tempted at all. So we started flying, only Dana didn't get very far because when he had to take a physical, he was colorblind.
Oh my.
And at that time, we didn't have radio, so you had to go by red and green.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't know whether you should go or not go. Yeah.
So how old were you when you were introduced to flying?
I think I was in my very early 20s. I would say 20.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was
a long time ago.
Yeah. Okay, so now you've been bitten by the flying bug a little bit, and what happens next? So.
Well, I had just taken a few hours. I think I had about 8 hours of flying time, and there was an article in the Life magazine about, and it showed a girl sitting on the wing of an AT-6. So I got the Life magazine and read up about it to find out what it was all about, only to find out that they were training girls to fly. Mm-hmm. I thought that was real exciting, so I thought, well, I'll take the written test, see if I could pass it. And so I boned up on aircraft identification, all things I knew nothing about, a few little things like that, weather, and then I had to go to Madison, Wisconsin. It was about 200 miles away to take the test. And I passed it, and this was in the fall of the year, and I didn't go back to college my junior year because I thought I'd be hearing from them. Well, I didn't hear anything, and then so I went back to school. But we had quarter system, so I could start at the beginning of the second quarter. And I no sooner got back in school and I got my notice, I was to report to Texas, Sweetwater, Texas it was. And I took a train and paid my own way and got there. And the day that we arrived, 2 wasps had been killed coming in for a landing. And they hit each other. And so they practically closed the field down. It was in the morning, really. So we had to spend a couple of extra days in the hotel at our expense because they didn't pay anything.
Nobody paid anything?
No, nobody paid anything.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And it was really pretty sad and scary for us because, you know, to hear that 2 girls were killed the day, just about the time we were getting there, made it sound pretty dangerous. Yeah. And then when I saw the planes, I thought, oh my word, I couldn't even reach the engine. You know, it was that high.
Yeah. How, when you learned how to fly back in Wisconsin, what were you flying? Did you learn? And they weren't
PTs. Well, no, not even that. What did we fly? I have to go look back on my.
Okay, but you weren't flying like a biplane or something. I mean, I don't know what you would learn in
Taylor craft.
Yes, okay, small, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And let's see now. Well, I do remember going to one of the reunions afterwards. They didn't have very many because we were spread all over the United States, and we didn't have money to go to these reunions. Nobody was paying for us. But I do remember going to Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, and ferrying a plane back to Minneapolis. That was kind of exciting.
Yeah.
But it was exciting because I was kind of afraid in that small plane. Now I've been used to flying things much bigger.
Yeah.
And we flew a lot closer to the ground. Came into some little airports that didn't have, you know, very good communication at all. So it was pretty early in the flying.
So you had a radio and you had contact with a tower, right? So they knew you were, I mean, you weren't flying.
That's all the tower, that's all we had was the tower.
Just the tower. And he said it was good to land or not good to land and wherever you
Get a light for that.
Okay, yeah. All right. And you didn't know anything about the WASPs until you read this Life magazine, right?
That's right.
Sure. It
Yeah.
wasn't something that was getting, that was probably the first exposure that the WASPs
That's
got.
right. Yeah, didn't know anything about it.
Okay. All right, so now you're in Sweetwater and you're in the hotel.
And my luggage got lost. So, but one of the girls that I had seen at the airport, and what would be the airport before I got to Sweetwater? It could have been Dallas, I don't know. Anyway, her name was Christensen and mine was Bronken, and we got in the same barracks because of our names. And she was the same size, and I wore her clothes for about 2 weeks, even her shoes.
Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't.
You had no luggage.
Yeah, and I didn't have anything else.
Yeah.
You know, it was, and I was homesick. I had never been away from home. No, and you don't have one thing of your own. You're walking around in borrowed clothes. Yeah.
In a strange place.
In a strange place, and having 2 girls killed that day.
Yes, and have I made the right decision? Yeah.
Yeah. I
Sure.
just thought, I don't know if I should be here.
Right.
So then I did call my dad and told him, you know, this is really hard. I am so stiff from exercising and from shots and all that stuff. I said, I don't think I can make it. And my dad said, what do the other girls have that you don't have? So then I thought, well, I guess I better not go home.
Yeah, it sounds like a dad's advice. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I never thought about going home after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
I just knew I was better make it.
Yeah.
But that really stuck with me. What do the other girls have that you don't have?
Okay. Very good. Huh. So after so now you're into training. Tell me about a typical training day and what kinds of things you were exposed to. Or
we would be, sometimes we'd be training right off the field, but you see they had Flight 1 and Flight 2. And when Flight 1 was flying off the field, Flight 2 was off in some pasture somewhere. I mean, we didn't have runways, we didn't have anything. It was hot, and we had cattle wagons they took us out in. You know, there would be maybe 12 girls that went out there to fly, and the rest, we'd sit in that cattle wagon and cook and study. It was really rugged. I don't think a girl would do that today. Yeah.
What time of the year was this now, Anita?
I went in April.
Okay, so it's pretty warm down there, right?
It was.
Yeah.
And I graduated in December, early December. I think that was it.
Okay, how big was your class? How many
Well, we
gals?
started out, I think, with 100, and it wasn't long, and we were down to 50. And I think about, in my flight, there were about 20, I think. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, well, you see, a lot of those girls just padded their logbook. They didn't have any time at all. So, you know, I guess they thought they were just going to get in a plane and know how to fly. Well, it wasn't that easy. Yeah.
So these gals were trying to get into the program without the experience.
Without having yeah. But they didn't expect you to have much time. They wanted you to have enough times so you probably didn't get airsick. I think 8 hours is always required. It wasn't much.
Yeah.
But some of them didn't have any time at all. They just wanted this time on the government. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yes. Okay. Huh. So now you're in training and you're enjoying the Texas heat, and so tell me about the kinds of things they taught you and the kinds of planes you were flying and
Well, of course, I think one of the first things we had to know is as soon as you get airborne, you look for a place that you might land in case you had to. Yeah, an open field or a wide road. I mean, you don't want to go out on a highway, but always keep in mind you may have to land this plane.
Okay, be ready for that.
Be ready for that.
Yeah.
So you're always and keep looking around to see if there's another plane in the area.
Okay.
Yeah, and most of the time we flew. There were two of us, and the one that was not flying was supposed to be looking always around to see, see that there weren't any other planes. Well, I had a wild and crazy friend from California, and she was afraid of nothing. And she used to scare me half to death. She would put the plane into a dive, and I'm under the hood.
Yeah.
And she'd wait until I couldn't stand it any longer and pull up, and she'd be back there laughing, because she knew I was going to chicken out first. But she was probably the best flyer in her class, outside of Pinky Breyer, who had taught many classes. She knew more than the instructors.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always someone like that at the
Yeah.
top of the class.
Well, she had many more hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what she.
So it doesn't make a sound in the. No, I know. But when you say there's two of you, are you one an instructor and you as a student, or are you both students at some point?
We're both students at some point. One is watching while you're under the hood. Yeah.
Okay. But you're both in the learning process.
Yes.
Now, when you're in a plane, and I don't know whether you were in AT-6s or something like that. Okay. Could you talk to other planes, or only the tower, or?
No, we didn't have any communication with it. With the tower, it was all lights.
Oh.
We didn't have radio.
So you were not talking to someone in the tower. His lights, the lights at the airport told you it was okay to land.
Right. We went by green and red lights.
My goodness. Woo. Okay. All right.
That's really pioneering.
Yes. And you're looking out to see if there are other planes in the area.
Yeah. Which
I'm sure, if this is Sweetwater, Texas, there probably were a few in the sky.
Yeah, well, we were always two in the plane, so one is flying and the other is supposed to be watching.
Right.
Yeah.
But there were other planes in the air, I'm sure.
Oh,
during
sure.
the day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, but they spaced us, so we didn't take off close together.
Yeah. And how long would a flight be? I mean, if you.
I think by the time we had gotten in, strapped in, and all that, probably an hour.
Okay.
Yeah. From the time you got in until you got out. Yeah.
And then what happens after a flight? There, you get.
You have to write it up.
Write it up, quizzed. Yeah.
Yeah, just say flight okay. Sign your name. And we signed our name with the last name first.
Okay.
Because they really called you by your last name. Yeah. And mine was Bronken, which
Bronken
looks a lot
sounds
like broken.
yes.
So I went through being known as broken antenna.
A little teasing there, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, when you see it written out, it looks a lot like broken antenna.
Yeah, yeah.
Just drop an end here and add an end somewhere else.
Well, then
Yeah.
you were ready if that situation came up, yes, they'd have it all made out, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and so what other things did you do there on the base at Sweetwater? How long was your basic training, or the training period?
Let's see. I would say 8 months, 8 or 9,
Wow.
8 months. Yeah, something like that.
And how much,
We went to ground school half the day and flew the other half.
okay, that was my next,
Yeah.
yeah, how much time you spent in the air and how much time in the classroom, so it was a 50-50 kind of thing?
Right, and much of that time when we were on the flight line, we were sitting, waiting for
yeah,
our
yeah,
turn.
yeah.
Yeah. But we were studying at the same time,
Sure.
and it was so hot.
Oh, I bet.
Well, and of course, when we flew primary, we had open cockpits. We wore goggles, you know, just so we could see in those open cockpits. Well, you could tell anyone who was just starting out because we looked like what's the animal that has it?
Oh, yes.
Gopher, no?
Yeah,
Something like that.
Yeah, I know what
And,
you're talking about.
you could tell us in town because we had these
Big
big
marks.
white circles around our
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was glad when we got past that phase.
Yeah. So you were flying open cockpit trainers then, right? Oh, boy. That's,
PT-17s.
yeah. How interesting. How interesting. Yes. Okay. And what kinds of things were you talking about in class? What kind of...
Oh, ground school, weather. It's a long time ago now. What do I remember? Mechanics. We had to know a little bit about mechanics,
Yeah,
not a
okay,
lot, but
yeah.
because we did have maintenance men, but when they thought my name was Antenna Broken, I didn't give much for their their language
Yeah,
training.
yeah. Now you talked, I think when we talked last time about the men had a hard time with you gals, or some of them did. I don't know if they all did, but
Because
talk
we
a
were
little bit
doing
about that.
exactly what they wanted to do.
Right.
Flying from the factory to the field.
Yeah.
They did not want to go into combat, but
Oh, I see. Yeah.
we were there to relieve them for combat.
Yeah.
So imagine, they didn't.
So when you arrived, you mean there were guys shipping out to go to combat? You were replacing them? Oh my!
And what I remember, and I wish I had another WASP here to back me up, they swore at us.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. God damn it, Bronken. That's what I remember.
Yeah,
Oh, just stuff like that.
yeah.
A gentleman would never do that, but they didn't treat us like ladies, I can tell you that.
No.
They treated it like somebody that they didn't like.
Wow, you were
Yeah.
a threat to them, and they when they had the opportunity to see something wrong that you did, they probably gave you
That's right.
the
Yeah.
needle. Yeah. My goodness. My goodness. All right. Well.
And then the guy who was over these guys, he was a lieutenant. Now, I don't know what these guys were. I don't know if they had any rank at all. I think they might have been civilians. Anyway, I remember, and then we had to go out with this lieutenant, and he was so strict. And I remember doing the very best I could, and when we landed, he said, "Well, Bronken, what did you think of that flight?" And I said, "I thought it was fair." And he said, "Well, if that was fair, I'd like to fly with you sometime when you think it's good." So that was a real compliment.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Have I told you that many times before?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, no, no,
Oh,
you didn't.
okay.
No, but that's
Good.
precious. That's great.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. You now dress code. What was your
We wore, not too different from what I have, tan pants
Okay, okay,
and short sleeve white shirts.
okay.
And we furnished our own.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But then uniforms appeared down. Well, maybe that's after graduation.
You had to
when went
graduate first.
The blue. Okay.
But as I recall, seems like we paid for everything. I don't think anything was issued. But that's what I remember. It's a long, long time ago.
But I think I read where you, even though you were not military personnel, you were ranked as second lieutenants. Am I right?
Paid as a second.
Yeah, which I guess is, as a paycheck goes, must have been pretty good back then. But maybe not if you had to spend it all on your own uniform, your own clothing, and
Yeah, I didn't remember that we had any money to
Okay, all right.
fool
So
around
that's-
with. Yeah.
I guess.
But
it's-
knowing me, I probably sent at least a third of my paycheck home.
Okay.
My father was a banker, and if he didn't teach us anything else, he taught us that you don't spend everything you make. Yeah.
That's good, Dad. Very good.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And when you had some money, a little money, and a little spare time or free time, what would the WASPs do? What would you?
Well, we
guys
could
do?
go into Sweetwater,
Okay.
and they had a, not UFO,
USO.
USO.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I got you.
USO.
Yeah.
Well, we could go there. And it happened that I had a first cousin who lived in the West, can't remember where, who was stationed in Abilene and would come to the same USO.
Mm-hmm.
So he would bring some buddies along, and I'd bring some girls along.
Sounds good. Yeah.
And then and they'd sort of pair off and
Sure.
go to a dance somewhere, something. But most of the time, the girls that I brought were older than the boys that he brought.
Okay. There's this little awkward
Because
there.
some of these girls were their husbands were in the service,
Okay.
and they joined the service.
Yeah.
Well, they
Yeah.
weren't kids.
Yeah.
They may have been. They could have been. Oh, I don't know. Close to 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how
Sounds-
far was the town from the airport, or this town of Sweetwater versus?
We took a bus.
You took a bus. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
if you could call it that. I think it was still a cattle
yeah. Still okay. Okay.
cattle truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We couldn't walk it, I know that.
Yeah. Now, what are these Urban's turbans? I see pictures of you gals with these.
Yeah, we all wore long hair,
Okay.
and we couldn't let it fly. Well, number one, you'd never get it untangled again. So we wore pigtails. We had to
Okay.
braid our hair,
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
or wear a turban,
Okay.
so that you didn't have any hair flying in your face, because we were flying open
Yeah.
cockpit
Yeah.
planes. So those are the urban
Okay.
turbans, yeah.
All right. I saw a picture with all the gals with their turbans
Uh-huh.
on, and
Yeah.
that explains it.
Yeah, well,
Nice
that made
that
us
they
look
require-
uniform,
Yes.
because some
yeah.
did have short hair,
Yeah.
some long hairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Urban turban.
And now, tell me about this famous belly landing. There must be a story that goes a little.
The belly
You
landing.
said you had a problem with your wheels, or how did that happen?
I had, I made a couple of landings with my instructor, and then he got out, and I was to make 3 more, I think. And it's so long ago. I wish I had written it up. I came in for my first landing, and I thought, this is not, I don't have enough runway. I came in too long.
Okay.
And
yeah.
and then and so I pulled my wheels up to go around again, and then I thought, no, there's room to land, so I landed.
Okay.
But I forgot one
With the wheels.
thing.
Yeah.
The wheels are still up.
Oh my.
So I went flying down the runway with sparks flying, and by the time my plane had come to a stop, the what they call meat wagons, I think.
Yeah, so the ambulances, yeah, the
Yeah.
meat wagon, yeah. That's
Came, and they were there to pick up the pieces.
oh my.
But I was writing in my Anita Bronken, flight okay. No, belly landing, I wrote.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. So were you alone in the plane at that time when you, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that must have been a bit of a shock and a surprise.
Well,
but
it was, I felt terrible. I felt just terrible. And I wrote to my dad and told him, you know, I just washed out a plane and I hope you don't have to pay for it. Because I had no idea how much that plane cost.
Yeah,
It could have cost $200,000. It would have been like
Sure.
$2 million now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't repairable, you mean, by what you did to
I
it?
have no idea.
Yeah, okay, okay.
I never saw that number again.
Okay, and you just as
But,
well.
yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, you can believe how many planes were crashed while they were training.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. All
Yeah.
kinds of broken parts and
Mhm.
things, and yeah, you were just
Yeah.
one of the many. But it's interesting interesting story. Anything else like that happen that you could
Oh
think of?
no, no,
No?
I had a pretty good flying record.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think I ranked pretty high in my class.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a little older than some of them too.
Yeah.
I think I was a junior in college.
Okay.
See, some of them were
Yeah.
2 years younger, and it's a big age
Yes.
difference at that time.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I think we had to be 18.
Yeah. So I noticed in the one of the photographs how the gals, one of the gals was getting into a plane, and she had saddle shoes on, which didn't look like government issue, but she had a piece of tape on her leg there. Can you tell me about that?
That's where you put your takeoff time
Okay.
and your landing time
So
on a
that-
piece of tape on your leg.
on your leg, and then that would be
Mhm.
kind
Yeah.
of your notepad there.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Very interesting, yes. So you got through the training. Tell me about graduation, how you felt, and you said Jackie Cochran pinned the wings on you. I think
She
you
did.
told me. She did. Yes.
She did, because my parents didn't come to the graduation.
Yeah.
I
the
d-
long way,
I- I don't think they knew what a big feat it was.
yeah. Yeah.
And from Wisconsin and Texas was a long
Sure. Was.
long
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah.
I had 2 younger brothers at home.
Yeah.
So let's see, what was your question?
Well, no, it's about graduation.
Yeah.
Had you met Jackie Cochran before? Did she come to Avenger Field, Sweetwater, on a regular basis?
Well, but
or
we
was she
never got close to her.
Yeah.
You know, she'd be on
bit of a
she might be
celebrity.
on the stage while we were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So, but we definitely knew who she was,
Yeah.
because without her, there would never been any WASP.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. I was reading one of and I don't think I brought the article, but there was also a group in England of women that were flying Spitfires
Mm-hmm.
and were delivering them.
And that's where a lot of the girls went. The American girls, I don't know a lot, but a few, because there wasn't any place to train over here. So they went to England.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, tell me about graduation. What was that like? Now
Graduation.
you
Got sick from drinking.
were
Wine.
celebrating. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, this was this they put you in the shower and turned on the water and
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well, that's
Good.
sounds like a good celebration.
Oh, we were so naive. We were really kids.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
you are a kid when you go off to college.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you're well supervised there. Here, they treated us like we knew what was going on. Well,
Yeah.
we didn't.
Yeah.
And I lived in a dry state. So I don't know if all of Texas was, but definitely Sweetwater was.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
one of the girls had a car, went out and got liquor, and we all we passed the same bottle around, of course. We drank right off the bottle.
Sure.
Yeah.
How big was your graduating class? Do you remember? Kind of.
I would say, dear, 25,
Okay.
yeah, something like that.
And what was the ceremony like there? You march out in your new blue uniform and have your wings pinned on, or how did that work? Tell me about the graduation day.
It's almost a dream. I can't really,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But
except that my parents weren't there.
yeah, I know.
I don't think they realized what a feat it was to
Yeah.
get through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and after graduation, you were given an assignment. What was that?
I was stationed almost not very far from Sweetwater.
Okay.
Where was I? That terrible.
Oh, okay. But you were still in Texas somewhere, right? Okay.
Lubbock.
Lubbock.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And doing what? Anita?
We were training single engine pilots to fly twin engine.
Ooh, what was that like? That sounds.
Piece of cake.
Yeah.
Some of them had a lot more hours than we had.
Okay.
So they were flyers. Some of them had even been in combat.
Oh my. Okay.
Yeah. No, it was. It seemed like it was a role reversal to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, because these guys were veteran flyers.
Yeah.
We had just been through training, but they didn't know how to fly twin engine. And not that it's a big feat, you know. If you.
Well, what is it like? Tell me. I don't know anything about that sort of thing. So if I've been flying an airplane with one engine, what is the adjustment one makes for having two engines, keeping them? What's that like?
I don't remember.
I mean, you have to keep them. You've got gauges, and
Yes,
they have to be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So you don't have.
Yeah, we had a lot of gauges, and we weren't used to that
Yeah.
because before that we had an altimeter and a clock.
Yeah, and that was it.
Altimeter, a clock. So we knew how high we were, we knew what time it was, and the speed, speedometer.
Okay. Okay.
So we knew three things.
Huh.
Yeah.
That sounds like enough information, but I
Well,
guess
yeah,
not,
and you know, if you look in there now, there's hardly anything in there.
Yeah.
And I got on a plane right behind a guy, one of the officers that was just flying home.
Yeah.
And I looked in there and there wasn't anything on the dash. And I said, oh my gosh, how can you fly? There's no instruments. And he said, we hardly do anything.
Yeah.
That plane takes itself off,
Yeah.
it lands itself. It's only when you come into really rough weather, ice, unusual conditions
Yeah.
that you have to lay your hands on.
Yeah.
According to him, now I'm one man's opinion of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I've never talked to another pilot when
Yeah.
I was on the plane. Yeah.
Okay. So how long were you in Lubbock, and what was that like?
Not long. Let's see, I would say from April to April until November.
Okay.
I got home for Christmas. I had
Okay.
to get myself home. Yeah,
Yes, you keep saying that. Everything.
Yeah.
You paid for everything, didn't you? Oh my goodness.
yeah.
Now, when you went to this base in Lubbock, how many WASPs were there, or was it?
I think there were 7 or 8 of us.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, I went and gave a talk somewhere, and I brought the few pictures I had, but I didn't have a camera.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no way of taking pictures. And and I never got them home again. And when I finally realized I didn't have those pictures, I called the woman whose house it was at, and she said, I have no idea where they are.
Oh my.
If she found them, she didn't save them. I wonder if she thought I had multiple copies of
Sets
everything.
of them,
They were the
yeah.
only ones I had.
When was this? Was this recently?
Oh,
or, I mean,
and
this
no, it's probably 4 years ago.
No, I know, but these were the
Oh, yeah.
photographs were precious.
Yeah,
and
they were.
That's too bad. That's too bad.
I don't know what, well, I couldn't have been thinking either.
Well,
Why I didn't come home with
but
them.
irreplaceable
Yeah.
nonetheless. And okay.
I think I had a WASP book with a lot of generic stuff in it, and I brought that along and passed it around.
Mm-hmm.
And the pictures I thought were in there, well, they weren't. Yeah, so it's absolutely stupid. Can't believe the few pictures I had I lost.
Well, how about maintaining friendships after? Now, how long were you in Lubbock, and at what point did I don't know whether the war ended or when you girls were sent home, or your career as a WASP was over?
I was only in from, let's say, April till December.
Okay, I think you said you were the second to the last
Yeah.
graduating class.
Yeah, there's one
all right?
class after.
Yeah.
And so what else did you ask?
Well, when the war ended,
Yeah.
you just
I went back to college.
bought a
Well, I didn't. I went out. See, I'd made a very good friend with a gal from Reedley, California, and her father owned a plane. And so she said, well, you're welcome to come out, and they did some crop dusting and stuff like that, if you wanted to come out. So I went out there and lived with her family until, probably 6 months or
Oh,
stuff.
what a nice experience! Yeah.
And then my dad wrote, or called, I think he wrote, and said, I put you through 3.5 years of college. The least you could do is come home and finish.
Yeah.
So I think that was command.
Dad speaks again.
Yeah,
Yes.
I
yes,
got home.
Okay. Yeah.
Finished college.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything with it. Majored in home ec.
Well, but you finished college. Yes.
But I also took a lot of courses that were, the boys were taking, what do they call it, industrial. Well, I learned a few things about engines and cars and stuff like that.
Okay, the
Where to put
mechanics
the
of
oil
things.
and
Yeah,
how
yeah.
to test
Absolutely.
the dipstick.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was the only girl in that class. I
Yeah.
mean, it was a class for boys.
Yeah.
And they weren't too helpful with me either.
Yeah.
They didn't want me in there.
So after your stay in California, where did you head? Did you come back to? You came back to finish school, I guess you said.
I did.
But
And then I went, I was working for my dad. He needed help in the office. My father he was a banker for a while, then the banks went under, and he started his own lending company because he knew, well, I think he took all his customers with him from
There
the
you go,
bank,
yeah.
actually, yeah. Anyway, I worked for him, and then one of my good friends, neighbors, had contracted tuberculosis while she was working for the government. And she had been through the sanitarium out in Denver. Now she's home and she's ready to go back to work. And so she said, we can't live in Colfax the rest of our life. We're going to die to old maids here. population 919.
Yeah.
So she said, where do you want to go? And I said, I like skiing. I'd like to go to Denver. And she said, I just got out of the hospital in Denver. That's the one place I don't want to go.
Okay.
So I said, okay, you pick it. And she picked Washington. So I didn't even pick Washington.
Yeah.
But luckily for me, that's where I met my husband.
Okay.
And I met him because I got a job at the White House only
You told me
because
that. How did that happen?
I applied.
You just applied. Okay. You spoke up and said, all right, that's...
Well, I didn't have any special. I only knew how to type. I could take shorthand, sort of.
Right.
But it wasn't very good.
Right.
But at that time, they used dictaphone, so if you can hear, if you got good hearing, you can go over and over and over until you get it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I applied and I got in. Simple as that. And I keep thinking of all the jobs that people could have if they only had guts enough to try. Because you have to
speak up.
You have to start with a learning process
Sure,
almost anywhere you
sure,
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So while I was there, I met a gal. Now I've shrunk now, so I'm quite short. I'm only 5'7.5" now.
Okay.
But I was 5'10" then, and I wore heels.
Yeah.
So one of the gals I met at the White House, I worked in the West Wing, asked me how tall I was. And I said, I am 6'1.5" when my shoes are.
Yeah.
So anyway, she said, would you be interested in a club for tall people? And I said, sure. So she sent in my name, and I waited and waited and waited, and finally I got an invitation and on a penny postcard inviting me to a dance, and it was signed Morton Matthew. He was the new membership chairman. Before that, it had been a girl, and she wasn't asking any more girls to come. They had more girls than boys anyway.
Very good.
Yeah. So that's how I got there, because Mort was the membership chairman.
Isn't that
Yeah.
wonderful?
Yeah.
Yes,
And I do remember a couple of things about that night. One was, it was somebody's birthday, and we stood around in a circle and sang Happy Birthday, and we sang it in 3-part harmony, and I could hear another harmony part besides me, and it was my husband.
right.
He was a beautiful pianist. That
Okay.
was his
Yeah.
piano.
Yes, yeah.
And so then, let's see. So then I went and thanked him for inviting me.
Yeah.
And he said, do you have a ride home? And I said, no. Are you volunteering?
Ah, the old line, yes, very
So
good.
that was the beginning.
That was the beginning.
Nobody
Isn't that
ever
wonderful?
asked, no other boy in that whole thing asked me after Mort did, because I guess I'd already been branded.
He's
He
the
took me
chairman.
home, and
right,
yeah.
Right, okay.
And that was the beginning of our friendship.
How nice.
And my son still can't get over that we got married in such a short period. I said, well, we were old enough to know, my husband,
How short a period did you say?
we met in October, I'd say, and we were married in June.
Okay, that's,
Yeah.
that's a fair amount of time, sure.
But before that, one of our tall friends from this club said to Mort at Christmas, I was going back to Wisconsin for Christmas, and they asked Mort what he was going to do, and he said nothing. He lived in California.
Yeah.
And so Carol said to Mort, why don't you go home with Anita? And he said, well, she hasn't invited me. So I said, well, you're more than welcome, but we don't have a bedroom for you.
Yeah.
So he slept on the sofa in the den, and all these little tow-headed kids are all lined up, quiet as mice, waiting for him to wake up.
So they could start their day, yes.
And he was so good with those kids, you
Yeah.
cannot believe. He found out that they could sing harmony.
Oh,
Yeah, and one was old enough to read. She did piano lessons.
now who are these children?
My sisters.
Your sister's children,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
And so Jean would hurdle these kids into a bathroom, and she'd give them their parts. Half hour later, they'd come out and sing 3-part harmony. And Mort thought he had died and gone to heaven.
Oh, wonderful.
And find these kids who could read music.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he, and I do remember his calling his mother on Christmas Day out in Berkeley, California. And there was so much racket in the house. Mom had one telephone. It was hanging on the wall in the kitchen. And he's there where all this noise is going on. And I was trying to get the kids to be quiet so he could hear.
Yeah.
And he said, no, I want my mother to hear all this.
Sure. I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
Mom. Yes.
I'm where I want to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And my brothers had started a little ski hill with a rope tow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very elementary.
Basic, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we went skiing, and we
Okay.
both knew how to ski, which is kind of, well, I wouldn't have if my brothers hadn't started this little
Yeah.
ski
The old
operation.
rope tow, I remember
Yeah, rope
those.
tow.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
as basic
And-
as it gets, yeah.
And
Yeah,
we
I-
had many years before we had a son, so
Yeah.
we traveled a lot and did
Oh,
a lot of
wonderful.
skiing.
Oh,
We went
wonderful.
to Europe twice skiing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, had Mort been in the service?
No, he was considered essential. He was an engineer. He
Okay.
was, and been working on turbines, whatever that is, engines, aircraft
Wow,
engines.
Pratt
yeah.
Whitney, yeah, that's
And
where it all got
he was
started.
in Fort Wayne, Indiana, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, probably General Electric engines, yeah.
Yeah, General Electric.
Yeah. So he must have found your military career or your experience in the WASPs quite interesting, right?
It's funny, he just kind of passed over it, like he just sort of took it for granted.
Okay,
He knew that about me early on, and that was that.
okay.
But I never heard him saying to anybody, did you know that my wife flew before
Yeah,
she
yeah.
got married? No, but he wasn't the kind that would.
Okay.
He had a lot of talent himself, but you'd never know it.
Yeah. Okay. Now, did you ever fly with him, or have him in the plane flying?
No,
Okay. Okay.
I flew my parents,
You did. Yeah.
but by the time this was a lot of time had passed in
Yeah.
between. Yeah, so I wasn't flying anymore.
Okay.
I didn't own a plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So along comes Kent, right? When was that? And that was you started a family.
1963.
Okay. Okay. So
We were
couple
married in
years.
56, and he was born in 63.
Okay. Okay.
So by that time, I had one tube, one ovary. I mean, I was working with just half
Yeah.
my equipment.
Wow.
Yeah.
but you got it done, kiddo.
Yeah.
You did. You did.
Yeah.
Contact with other WASPs after you left. I mean, were there reunions?
I've gone to a few reunions.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Some of them go to all the reunions.
Yeah.
That was, well, it was a high point in our life.
Sure.
But life goes on. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
you can't just live on that year that you spent flying. It was a long time ago.
No, but it's pretty.
Yeah.
A reunion is a time to.
And I probably have been to 6 of the reunions.
Oh.
But you know, one year it's on the East Coast, one on the West Coast,
Yeah.
sometimes in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
You pay for your own way there.
You're
You
still
pay
paying
for your.
own, aren't
You're
you?
still paying for your
Sure,
own.
Yeah.
The hotels are expensive.
Yeah, I'm sure.
yeah. And then of course I had a child very late, so
Yes, you have
Yeah.
responsibilities.
I
yes,
had,
you
you
can't
know, I
just
had a
take
little
off.
one at home
Yeah.
and a husband who wasn't. He
Yeah.
was off working.
You mentioned when we talked last a couple of weeks ago about a Maggie G or somebody that was
Maggie
a
G.
special friend. Tell me about
And
her.
oh, didn't you drop off a picture? Oh, no, that was somebody else. Okay, somebody brought a picture that they thought was sure had to
really?
be Maggie G. He's somebody in my church.
Okay.
It wasn't Maggie G at all,
Yeah.
but she was Oriental. Maggie G was Japanese.
Okay. And she was a WASP?
Mhm.
Okay. Was she
Which-
the only?
She's the one in our class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
you-
so she really stood out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But you had a friendship with her, and you did some I don't know,
still-
traveling. You still do.
Yeah.
And she's where?
She's in Oakland, California.
Okay. Was she actually in your class, or just someone?
She was in my class,
Okay.
in
Okay.
my flight.
Your flight. Okay.
Yeah, our
About the-
class was divided in two flights. We didn't know the other. We hardly knew that flight two, because we flew when they were in ground school, we were in ground school when they flew. So we were always separated from them.
Okay. But when you graduated, you all graduated
In
together.
the same class, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's so nice that you were able to maintain friendships, get to some reunions, and
And the one in Silver Spring, Maryland, hasn't missed anything. I mean, she goes to all the reunions, doesn't matter where it is.
yeah.
She lost her husband early on. She had the best looking husband I've ever seen in my
Oh, really?
life.
Yeah.
She had three, maybe four children, all, of course, long ago. She's probably grandmother 12 times by now.
Yeah.
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 No. So how do you feel about your experience as,
Oh,
you know,
you'd never forget it. You could never forget that
Yeah.
part of your life.
yeah,
You know, it was a lot of times we were scared. A lot of times we were so stiff from the physical part of it.
yeah, you did a lot of the
Yeah,
calisthenics and
Yeah.
marching and that sort of thing.
we did carry parachutes, and it was men's work, a lot of it. Yeah, and the smaller you were, the more you had to carry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking of I never had to carry any pillows because I had long legs.
Yeah.
But you know, they had to carry about 4 pillows in order to get up,
So they
So-
could work the
so they could work the rudders.
pedals,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
How interesting. Yeah.
yeah. I don't think I. Trying to remember if I have.
And,
Seems like I used to have some books, but I don't know.
on flying or on?
They're buried somewhere. Yeah, my WASP days.
Wow.
I used to have.
I think you said you had some log books or some. I know you showed me some Life you don't have the Life magazine, but
Yeah.
you showed me the cover and
Yeah.
some documents and things, and we'll take a look at that when we finish up. But
Right.
that would be some good stuff to see.
It's so far back now.
Yeah, I know.
And I moved
know.
so many times that, you know, pretty soon you decide what's really important, what isn't.
Yeah, that's true.
And that
That's
was my life then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the war, Anita? How did you feel about how we were fighting it, and Pearl Harbor and the dropping of the atomic bomb and the whole thing? I mean, you were in the thick of it, you know, you were doing your part, but
Boy,
you know,
all I know is I had a brother that saw the worst. He was 2 years younger than I, but saw the absolute worst part of the war. He was in Okinawa and Iwo Jima.
Pacific,
Not
yeah.
Iwo Jima, or whatever. He couldn't have seen worse.
Yeah.
And then he came home, and he was the day before his 21st birthday.
Wow.
So
was a young
here's
man.
this young boy
Yeah.
from a little town who loved classical music. He wasn't a sissy, but he enjoyed
The finer things.
the finer things. Yeah. Always put in the
How long was
worst,
he in the Pacific? How long was he over there?
practically the whole time. He joined because he thought he was going into officers training, and he no sooner got down to Illinois than they took all his officers training and put him in the infantry. So you see, he signed up for officers training and ended in the infantry.
Yeah.
And he came out one step higher, probably. I don't know if he was a corporal, sergeant. What comes next?
I don't know.
You don't know either.
No, I didn't do any time in the military,
Yeah.
but I guess that's,
Yeah,
but he came home safe and sound.
he did, but
He
he was
did.
never the same.
No,
He was never the
He
same.
was now affected by it,
He couldn't talk about it.
yeah.
I think he actually had to kill or be killed because he was in Japan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what I've heard from other veterans
Mm-hmm.
who fought in the Pacific. That was a different kind of fighting. The
Terrible,
Japanese
terrible,
were, yeah,
terrible thing for a young, impressionable
Oh.
boy.
I know. To think you're 18, 20
Yeah.
years old and going through that is
Yeah.
just so hard to imagine.
That's right.
But he came home safe and sound, so that's
Yeah, and he lived to be 75.
God bless him. Yes,
Mhm.
good, yes. So,
Hmm.
well, now I see a gold medal sitting here. Tell me about that. How that? I'm going to let you
Well-
hold that up for the camera. Let's see if we can bring it up a little in front of you there.
I don't know how.
Little higher. Oh, nice. Little higher. Very nice. Yes. Okay. Now, tell me about this medal. Everybody's. This
Okay,
is,
now, what do I know about it?
I mean, when did you find out that you were going to be awarded the medal, and who was communicating the? You know, if you.
Who's Chris Murphy? Chris,
He's a congressman, I think.
he was
somebody-
instrumental.
Okay.
Did I leave some information over there on that table?
Yeah. Let's see what's. Yes, this might be.
My cleaning lady found all this stuff and put it all.
You showed me that. You
She's
showed me
the,
that
she's the one that put this all
nice?
together, and I don't even know how to do it.
Yeah, laminated, yeah.
Yeah. Wilma Voigt is Brigadier General, retired, of the Air Force.
Okay.
Christopher Murphy.
Okay, congratulations on the award of the Congressional Gold Medal to the Women's Air Force Service Pilots.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful tribute to the WASPs for their extraordinary contributions in the U.S. military during World War II. Enclosed is the bronze replica of the medal I hope you will accept as a small token of the nation's gratitude and pride in you and the WASPs.
Who signed that one?
This is signed by William Vaught, Brigadier General, United States Air Force.
Then I got this from Christopher Murphy,
Chris Murphy,
whoever
yeah.
he is.
Congress of the United States, right. He'd like to commend and thank you for your services to our country during the Second World War. I am enclosing a bronze replica of the Congressional Gold Medal in commemoration of your exemplary accomplishments and contributions to the U.S. military during the Second World War. And this is dated May of 2010, so this was this has just arrived, right?
Right.
This gold medal, yeah.
Right. Then this was,
Yes, this is the article you gave me. That was
that,
in the,
you've seen that one.
but it was an article written by your local bank, and the bank customer gets Congressional Gold Medal, and this is was in the Litchfield News. A nice story. I read this, and it talks about your involvement.
Okay, and then this is the same as that, or something.
Congratulations! It's an honor to serve you. This is again, it's
Same time.
Yeah,
That all
the
came out same
yeah,
time.
June of 2010. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So there was a big blank and nothing, and all of a sudden, all this
You
stuff.
were a celebrity.
Yeah,
Yes,
I was a
yes,
celebrity.
Yes.
And I got a big bat.
Did they do something here in town? What did they do? Was there a
Well, they
parade in
had
your honor, or-
something at the church for all veterans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
On Veterans Day, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to other veterans that have talked about getting together, gathering, being honored, I guess, is.
Yeah, and it
It's
just happened to
important.
be at the church that I go to.
Okay, so it worked out, yeah.
Yeah. So this turned out to be a big year.
Well, good, and I'm glad to be sitting here talking to you about it during this big year. So,
Yeah. Huh. Decades later. Republican American. I don't know who sent me this. Somebody did. 3/28/10.
yeah, it's March, so everything, you're right, this year was a big year. It was,
May 27th, 10. 6 women.
yes, there's 6 here in Connecticut, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
6 WASPs,
I know one, Ann Gleasner from Danbury.
yeah.
That's all I knew.
Did
I
you-
have been to one of the reunions, and but it was, oh, I don't know, maybe our 25th. How many is it now?
Oh, I don't know. Don't make me do the math. I'll never get it.
Okay.
It's been some time, yes.
Good, I wouldn't either.
Yeah,
But so I did go to one reunion in Bethany,
okay, yeah,
and I can't remember whose house it was at, but it was a long time ago.
yeah.
And that's the only reunion in Connecticut that I know
Yeah.
of. Yeah.
Which must have been special, to sit with the gals
Oh, yeah.
and talk about,
Mm-hmm.
because I guess you all went through Sweetwater, am I right?
We all went the
Yeah,
exact
that was
same training,
Same
yeah.
path, right?
Mhm.
And you maybe
Yeah.
went in different
And
directions
some of us remember the same instructors, and
No
of
kidding.
course
Oh, how wonderful.
they kind of,
Yeah, left their impressions
Yeah.
on you, yeah.
right. Yeah. It's kind of like a dream to me.
Yeah,
It's far back now, and I have forgotten a lot.
so having these,
Well, I'm 88, and I was, what, 22 then, 66 years ago. That's a lot of,
well, we'll forgive
mileage.
you for a little lapse in memory.
Yeah.
It was such a special accomplishment. It was such a wonderful experience. I mean, to think of,
it was.
I mean,
I still don't understand my parents.
Yeah.
What were they thinking?
wow. But you,
Oh, I know what happened. My father
yeah,
couldn't get into the service because he had hearing only in one ear. He'd had a mastoid operation,
yeah,
couldn't pass a physical. And he was a big, strong farm boy who went to business college in Minneapolis and ended up president of the bank in Colfax,
okay.
this big. And I think he never got over the fact that he was so big and strong and couldn't get in the service.
Yeah,
Like, I think it was a big smirch on his character to him. Well, he couldn't help that he had, a mastoid.
yeah,
However, why that happens, I don't know. We weren't really even aware of the fact that he didn't hear in his left ear, because when we were in the car, he always drove and he always had his ear to where the noise was coming
right,
from.
right, the good ear, yeah.
4 kids
Yeah,
and a wife.
right.
Yeah.
So when you guys showed an interest in the service, because he didn't have the opportunity, he wanted you
He
guys
went. He
enthusiastic.
paid all the expenses.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to fly first.
Yeah, you said that.
But I never knew about how much it cost him. I never asked, and he
Oh,
never
okay.
told me.
That's interesting, yeah.
But I'm sure the government wasn't paying for it. I
No.
don't think.
No, not
Or
the
that
other,
far back.
The other WASPs I've talked to, they said that they had to pay their own
Yeah.
expenses to learn how to fly, and then you could apply to the WASPs. You know?
Yeah, first you had to know how.
Right.
Except I think a few of them did cheat.
Yeah, you said that.
They made up a logbook, and they probably had been in a plane, but that's about it. I don't think they knew how to
Boy,
fly.
that doesn't sound like something I'd want to doctor the books for. You know, you get up.
No,
to, you know.
but you know, maybe they knew enough to know that they're going to start you over again with the primary trainer.
Yeah.
They're not going to take you up in a Taylor craft or anything we've been flying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but they got discovered and sent home, I guess, is what you said in some cases, right?
Some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they didn't have any flying time at all,
Yeah.
they really couldn't
Yeah.
make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you said when we talked last time that you thought about continuing flying after the service, and you
Well,
talked
yes,
about wanting to become a stewardess, but
Well, no, I wanted to become a co-pilot.
okay, yeah,
And I had the hours, I had the training, but they wouldn't even consider me because I was a woman.
woman, yeah,
Now, it didn't matter at all.
Yeah.
But that was ahead of the time.
oh,
And I was too tall for a stewardess.
yeah.
That time the planes were lower.
Well, that's true. I guess
Yeah.
they put
They would
heels
have had
on
to
you.
walk through
Yeah,
this way.
yeah.
Now, men can walk through a plane without ducking, can't
Yeah.
they?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
They're,
Yeah.
yes.
But they are much higher.
Yeah.
So there wasn't any place, and I didn't want a desk job. I mean, I
No. No.
could get those anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's what I did do afterwards. I'd look in the newspaper and find a typing job and take it for a little while
Sure. Sure.
until I found something I liked better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much worked in Minneapolis. Till I
Went to Washington and met Mort.
met
right?
Mort.
Yeah. How wonderful. How wonderful.
Yeah, he was a good, he was very talented,
Yeah.
has two wonderful sons. One of them was mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I had both boys here for a little while this summer. Paul is, what the heck is he? He is, well, he lives in California.
Yeah. Okay.
He comes about once a month to New York for whatever his business is. And he usually calls me.
Oh, nice.
And
yeah.
then sometimes he drives out, takes me to dinner and goes back to New York.
Okay. Okay.
And my own son
Kent.
comes home
Yeah.
about 3 times a year.
Yeah. He's in Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In Lubbock. No, he's in Texas.
Yeah, I think you said Houston, didn't you? In Houston? No. Okay.
He's not in Houston. Plano, Texas.
Okay. Don't think I know where that is. But,
It's up
Yeah.
it's up near Lubbock, north. It's just below Oklahoma.
oh, okay. Okay.
There's a big city right there. What's one of the big cities in?
Dallas is up that way. Houston,
Dallas.
my sister lives in
He's
Houston.
right north of
Yeah,
Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what do you do for excitement now? You have
Well,
have your church friends. You have us. Tell me now. Are you still in contact with some of the WASPs, the gals?
yes, but not much.
Okay.
No, I had a mini reunion here a couple of years ago, and then we went up to just over the line into Massachusetts to visit one of the girls that's in a senior citizens
Mhm, mhm.
setting, and we had a nice dinner there together. I don't really hear from many except maybe Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And fewer people are sending Christmas cards now
Yeah, I
that the
know, I
postage is so high.
Well, and it's just, it's an effort, and it's just a kind of an old-fashioned thing people aren't really doing.
Well, I remember how my mother and father worked for those Christmas. My father had this real fancy writing.
Yeah. Oh,
And he did the envelopes.
Yeah.
And she stuffed them and put the stamps on and maybe wrote a little note in, but he just did the fancy envelope. And I don't have one sample of his writing. I can't believe it.
Mercy.
I guess I thought he was going to be around forever. Well, that didn't happen. Yeah. He had ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, Lou Gehrig's disease.
Oh, okay.
If you remember that.
Yeah.
You remember Lou Gehrig?
Oh, yes. I don't remember him.
Yeah.
I know, yes.
Yeah.
He's very special.
Yeah.
Yankee baseball player, yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, Anita, it's been a pleasure and it's been an honor to talk to you about your experience.
Well, it's kind of fun going over all those old...
Absolutely, absolutely.
We'll just ignore that.
Okay. But if you could sum it up, what would you tell me, without putting pressure on you, but tell me about, if you could say your experience as a WASP, what's the most
exciting part or well, I will have to say it was probably the most exciting part of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It didn't last long, but
yeah.
That's probably somebody trying to sell me something.
Well, that happens. That happens.
And I just think, how can they be so persistent when there's nobody on the other end?
I get them all the time, and it does wear on you. So you're saying your experience as a WASP in 1944 was the most...
Well, definitely the most exciting. Scary, exciting,
yes.
Thrilling.
Yeah.
All that. Yeah.
Well,
and I still have some friends left. A lot of them are gone. I mean, we're old. And I was one of the young ones. Yeah.
Right, but it's so special that you gals have been recognized. It's too bad it took so many years. But,
yeah. Yeah.
You know, I didn't know what a WASP was until I started to read about it in the paper that you gals
A
were
WASP
honored.
was something completely different, a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
Right, oh,
And,
yes.
And then there's a little fly, bug,
There's,
the stinger.
Right, you don't want to meet those, right. And you gals just jumped right on that acronym.
Yeah.
And
do you remember, did I have anything that showed you the one that Disney made our patches?
Yeah, what did you call what were those called?
Fufanella.
Fufanella, yes.
Yeah.
As there's a nice picture in the book of
Okay, yeah.
the girl standing at the front gate of
exactly. It was
Sweetwater,
right
and
over
there's
our
this,
dining hall.
This
Through this
there was a
portal
saying.
past the world's, I don't know, finest flyers or something like that.
Okay, see, you remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I know there was a saying, and there was this goggled character that Disney designed for you gals.
Exactly,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, very special.
And in one of the houses that we lived in, we had a little trapdoor that led to the ceiling, and my husband got on a ladder. He was very tall, 6'3", got on a ladder, painted on the little part that drops down, through this portal past the world's most agile people or something. It was almost the same thing that was over our door, except that's how we got into the attic. Yeah. Well, we never got there more than waist high. Yeah. You had to reach what you were going up there for. I don't think we could.
I have an attic like that. That's an effort you have to pull the stairs down to get up. And, Well, Anita, I want to thank you. Central Connecticut thanks you. The Library of Congress thanks you. And as I said, it's been a pleasure and an honor to talk to you today.
Thank you so much.
About your experience. And I hope I'm one of many folks that ask you all those questions and give you the opportunity to share that wonderful time in your life.
Well, it is interesting that one other person, it suddenly seemed like the fact that I was a WASP came into being, and I don't know how it started. At the bank?
Yeah.
Is that where it started for you?
No, I'm involved with Central Connecticut State University, so
how did they know about it?
Well, I was given your name. I don't know how the whole thing got
Yeah,
going.
well, see, that's what I'm curious about.
That would be very interesting to
Yeah.
do a little research as to
Yeah.
who decided at what point. I think there was many years that Washington was trying to do something to
Yeah.
honor you gals. It just took a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it all happened in the last year, and that's
I
very
think so.
special.
They wanted it before we're all dead.
Well, there's there's 300 of you out there, and there's
Yeah.
6 here in Connecticut, and I've had the honor of meeting 2 or 3 of them, and hope to meet all 6. And
That would be fun. Yeah.
yes, that's.
It's. I don't know. I can still drive. I don't know. I assume the others can, but I don't know. They could
Well, I
be.
think there's a couple that maybe aren't quite, but that doesn't mean I can't go and visit them and hear their story.
Yeah. But I'm thinking it's too bad we still can't have a reunion.
Yes, wouldn't that be special?
I
That
guess,
would be-
yeah.
That would be.
Except that if we can't see or hear each other.
Yeah.
I
that
wear
makes a
hearing aids,
difference.
but I
Yes,
can still
yeah,
see.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
again, I say thank you.
Well,
an honor, a
it
pleasure.
was very interesting for
Okay.
me too.
Okay, thank you so much. All right.